Hi, this is Speaker of the Boca Voice, and welcome again to Fact or Fiction Friday. Today we'll continue the dialogue in regards to Wildflower property. Why? Not because we're tired of talking about it, but because this upcoming vote on November 8th, it's very important. We need to discuss what's going on. This ordinance is important to our entire city. You can't go anywhere in the city where you don't see these signs on one end of the debate or the other. So as we go through this, I decided to get to the core of who started it. Why is this such a debate? You know, originally I just thought it was because the Golden Triangle, again, were trying to enforce their will. The silent, the loud minority was trying to just force will on the city council, as they have in the past. And then I dug a little bit deeper. And although that is the case and they're trying to get this passed, and a portion of it is that, right at the core of this was not, I won't go so far as to say sinister, but certainly a little suspect. There's one person that actually started the process and started it that had a vested interest. The person that started the petition actually lives catty corner to the property. And I find that very biased, and I'm a little bit upset about that. That a person started a petition for the betterment of the city under the pretense that it's under the betterment of the city, and did not disclose to the residents as a whole that he and she, I'm not sure if it's a couple or it's just one person, so I don't want to make any assumptions, but their backyard looks directly, or catty corner, to the Wildflower property, and what will they have a direct impact of what they're looking at when they go out in their backyard, and whether they're in their pool or they're barbecuing, and what happens in the backyard. So they want to control what the city puts in their backyard, and that's unfair to the rest of the public. I'm sorry, but I'd like to be able to control what the city does in my backyard, as I'm sure all of you would. It's our dollars, the taxpayers' dollars, that controls that. And for the taxpayers, the city got together and decided to purchase that property for the sole purpose of putting a waterfront restaurant for the betterment of the city. We only had one property at the time that you could actually have a dining restaurant, a dining establishment on the waterfront, and it was the Intercoastal Waterway. And they wanted to provide the city with another option. They went out, they sought after, for years, for 7 years, they tried to negotiate on this property with the Omega Group. And the Omega Group wanted over $30 million for the property. They finally negotiated it down to $7.5 million. Then went farther on and negotiated out an incredible deal with the Hillstone Group, and made a deal for the city for us to be able to have a deal. And it's since stalled because, again, this loud minority has created this halt. And turns out to be that it started to a halt because this petition, and now that this petition is out there, they found out that, wow, wait a minute, now that we got this petition passed, it's not exactly what we wanted, because now it may jeopardize what other things that we wanted, because now it's so restrictive that it could really jeopardize even the things that they want. The way that they wrote it, it could actually jeopardize other things they want, because if it's only used for stormwater use and for city use, then the carts that allow us to use umbrellas and chairs and hot dog vending carts, or the gift shop at Gumbo Limbo, by virtue of the statute, they would not, or the ordinance, they would not be able to be there. Well, then they went on to try to get an opinion of a lawyer. And they said, well, the city council has the right to do a variance. Well, I don't know about you, but if we're approving an ordinance that we know for a fact that by virtue of saying and voting yes to it, that the moment we vote yes, our city council has to write a variance to it, do you not think that maybe logically we should vote no? It doesn't make sense to me. Why would we vote yes when we know the next day we are requiring our city council to vote no? Are we not sending a mixed message? Are we truly giving our city council and our mayor a message that we're supporting them? We elected them. We thought enough of them to vote yes and put them in office. We thought enough of the ordinance and the ordinances we put in place to either vote them in or not vote them in. So why would we then put it in their hands afterwards and say, you know what, it's up to you? You know, there's a couple articles that we're gonna give you the opportunity. Randy Schultz wrote an article from the Boca Mag online that I'll give you a link to that you can look at. He makes very compelling points that I want you to look at and read fully when you see them. And he talks about the fact that, well, if they can make a variance for a hot dog cart, why can't they make a variance for the Hillstone restaurant? And he talks very deeply about that fact, and I recommend you deeply reading into the entire article. Again, variances aren't good. We shouldn't be signing into and agreeing and voting in an ordinance that we know we have to write a variance because the current things we have, their city council is going to have to go in the day after they go into effect, go in and write variances the very next day. That's just not good policy. So I ask you, as soon as you go to the polls, and early voting begins next week, so I ask you to please come out and vote. Please vote no. It's the last item on the ballot. When you go down to the ballot, vote no on this city ordinance. Thank you for joining us at the Boca Voice, and thank you for joining us at Fact or Fiction Friday. We look forward to having you back next week, and go out and enjoy Boca Raton. Thank you.